Ukraine claims that Russia violated the ceasefire that Ukraine announced earlier this week. Hungary returns the cash and gold worth 82 million USD back to Ukraine. And more news of the region. I'm Sophia Marie. Let's get into it. First news today, Ukraine claims that Russia has violated the ceasefire Ukraine announced earlier this week. Ukraine announced the ceasefire to be May 6th to 7th, so beginning last night at midnight. However, in overnight attacks, Russia launched various drones and missile strikes. Russian attacks include hitting a kindergarten in northern Ukraine today. 2 people were killed, but fortunately, no children were present in the school at that time. Now, the Ukrainian foreign minister posted to X today the irony in Russia having called earlier last week, I believe, for the May 8th to 9th ceasefire in honor of the Victory Day celebrations in the big military parade in Red Square, saying, quote, "This shows that Russia rejects peace and its fake calls for a ceasefire on May 9th have nothing to do with diplomacy." He continued, quote, "Putin only cares about military parades, not human lives." Now, for its part, according to a Kremlin-installed official, a Ukrainian drone strike killed 5 individuals in occupied Crimea. Ukraine also used the homegrown long-range cruise missile, the Flamingo, and targeted a Russian weapons factory more than 1,200 kilometers from the border. Now, in other news, this was reported just a couple hours ago. According to Bloomberg, Rustem Umerov, the head of the Ukrainian negotiations, will meet with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff as early as this week in Miami, Florida. As the Kyiv Independent points out, this is significant as there hasn't been any high-level negotiations going on between Ukrainian and U.S. Negotiating teams due to, obviously, U.S.'s preoccupation with the Iran war. But just today, Axios reported that U.S. and Iran are closing in on a 1-page memo to end the war, so because of this, there might be more time to focus on the Russia-Ukraine war again. Now, in other news regarding Hungarian-Ukrainian relations, today President Zelensky said that Hungary has returned the cash and gold worth 82 million USD back to Ukraine, which Ukraine claimed Hungary illegally seized March of this year. So in March, Ukraine accused Hungary of illegally seizing this cash and gold worth 82 million USD. They said it was kind of like a retaliation to the disruption that occurred to the Druzhba pipeline in Ukraine late January, which obviously Slovakia and Hungary were still heavily reliant upon for energy. Now, this speaks of a betterment in Ukrainian-Hungarian relations. Obviously, we know last month in parliamentary elections, Viktor Orban lost to Peter Magyar, who's seen as a more pro-EU figure, though he does come from the same Fidesz party. We also had Zelensky and Prime Minister of Slovakia, Fico, talking earlier this month, I believe May 2nd, with Zelensky inviting Fico to visit Kyiv. So it seems like we're seeing this rapprochement between Ukraine and the 2 EU member states, Slovakia and Hungary, who have been seen as the most, I think, in contrary to Ukrainian geopolitical desires. Now, lastly, on the South Caucasus, I know we've talked a lot about the Armenia-EU summit, but I just wanted to reiterate the significance of that. So Zelensky and Pashinyan, actually, there was a photo taken of them shaking hands, and Zelensky and Pashinyan, I didn't know this, but they spoke together in English. Obviously, both Ukrainian President Zelensky and Armenian Prime Minister know Russian fluently. I believe for Zelensky, it was his first language before even Ukrainian, so this choice to speak in English was deliberate. Also, I didn't see this before, so I just want to mention it now, but during the summit, French President Emmanuel Macron also weighed on the significance of this Armenia-EU summit, saying, quote, 8 years ago, this country, speaking of Armenia, was seen by a lot of countries around the table as sort of de facto satellite of Russia. Macron praised Pashinyan for, quote, de-risking the country from Russia. That's it for news today. Make sure to like and follow. I post these updates on the Russian, East European, former Soviet space daily.